we've got this new fight that's broken out between the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi as Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia over an interpretation of Judge Curry's order, which fired Lindsay Halligan as the U.S. Attorney Prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia. There's no other way to interpret the order that was rendered 2 weeks ago on the 24th of November by Judge Curry. I have a copy of it right here. But that Lindsay Halligan is out of a job and the vacancy needs to be filled by the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia. But we're here 2 weeks later and the Eastern District judges haven't gotten together to appoint a new prosecutor. And that left a gaping hole, a gaping loophole that the Department of Justice is trying to drive a tractor trailer through and argue that Lindsay Halligan still has her job, but federal judges look at filings with her name on it and scratch her head and said she was fired in an order. How could she possibly still be participating in decision-making and filing in court coming out of that office? And this against the backdrop of Alina Habba finally taking yes for an answer and resigning from her position as the District of New Jersey, the chief prosecutor for the state of New Jersey federally. From what I've read, Alina Habba, who was one of Trump's personal lawyers in civil cases like the New York fraud trial, got appointed as interim U.S. Attorney for New Jersey back in March 2025, but by December, a federal appeals court ruled she was unlawfully appointed, similar to Halligan's situation, and she ended up getting kicked upstairs to a special advisor role to Pam Bondi. Despite these disqualifications, Trump appointees are still claiming to be top prosecutors, which is just adding fuel to the fire in this ongoing battle. I'm Bill Gates, and let me tell you, this whole saga is a mess that's unfolding right in our justice system, and it's got implications for how we think about the rule of law in this country. Let's get down to what's going on. A couple of back-to-back decisions about a week apart. Lindsay Halligan fired by Judge Curry, who was presiding in there by designation, having been found. In particular, that Lindsay Halligan was illegally appointed by Donald Trump under a Vacancy Reform Act and under any interpretation of constitutional law to the position as U.S. Attorney, which must have come as some slight relief for Lindsay Halligan, considering she's 8 years out of law school with no federal court experience, let alone ever being a prosecutor. Lindsay Halligan started as a lawyer for Trump in 2022, handling things like the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. And Trump even posted publicly calling her a really good lawyer before pushing her into this role in the Eastern District of Virginia, where she was sworn in around September 2025 to go after his perceived enemies. Trump is running out of personal lawyers to elevate to the DOJ, and this disqualification is a real blow to that strategy, okay? And off went the James Comey and the Letitia James indictment with it. A week later, Alina Habba gets fired by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals for similar but not exactly identical reasons. Now it looks like the Department of Justice, particularly Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Todd Blanche, are still fighting to keep Lindsay Halligan in her spot while they're going around her to re-indict Letitia James for mortgage fraud and James Comey for perjury or something else, using other people in the office, people that they're already using, including, for instance, her deputy, her first assistant, who's now joined that office, Pam Bondi, the former Florida AG, who was nominated by Trump in November 2024 after Matt Gaetz withdrew, got confirmed in February 2025 by a 5-4-4-6 Senate vote. And she's been at the center of this, defending these appointments. Todd Blanche, who was Trump's criminal defense lawyer in the hush money trial, got nominated as deputy AG in November 2024 and is now running interference here. And so there's a battle between the federal judges who say, Judge Curry ruled you're out of a job, and why is your name still on pleadings and court filings as being the U.S. attorney when you're not the judges are challenging U.S. attorneys in their courtroom on unrelated cases, saying, why is Lindsay's name here? Including Judge Nachmanoff, who's the judge presiding over the Comey indictment. I'll go over that with you. And then you've got Bondi and Blanche running interference, attacking the Eastern District of Virginia judges who are ultimately going to pick her replacement, claiming that they're being biased and unfair against Lindsay Halligan. Well, Alina Habba got kicked upstairs to take a job to be the special advisor to Pam Bondi. Talk about blind leading the blind, and apologies to the blind. To be a special advisor about U.S. attorneys, what is going on? Problem is that it is a slight problem. It has to do with Judge Curry's order. Her order is a little bit slightly vague at the moment when it needed to be precise. Let me explain it to you. When she concluded in her order, ordered in a judge, number one, the appointment of Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. attorney violated Section 546 and the appointment clause of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, that's a finding of fact. That's a conclusion of law. She then says, all actions flowing from the defective appointment, including the indictment, are an unlawful exercise of executive power and are set aside. Okay. Conclusion of law and remedy. The Attorney General's attempts to ratify her actions were ineffective and set aside. Conclusions of law and a remedy. I understand that. Then she says in paragraph 7, the power to appoint an interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia during the current vacancy, pretty clear, lies with the district court until a U.S. attorney is nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate. Not much of a loophole. 7 could have been a little bit more precise. She could have said, there is now officially a vacancy. Ms. Halligan, you're out of a job. I don't think there's any other way to read the preceding 6 paragraphs than exactly what I just said. But what the Department of Justice is arguing in the Office of Legal Counsel for Donald Trump is that what's a little bit unclear, a little bit ambiguous, she says there's a vacancy. She says Halligan was illegally appointed and her appointment violated the statute and the Constitution, and says the vacancy needs to be filled by the judges. But even the judges didn't move forward to fill the vacancy. See, what if I had written it where I would move for clarification if I were Comey's lawyers, if I cared in Letitia James's lawyers, and I would say, here's a proposed amended order which says there's now a vacancy created because of the unconstitutional appointment and illegal appointment of Lindsay Halligan. She is barred from continuing to operate as the U.S. attorney. I preclude her, I block her, I enjoin her. There is now a vacancy. That vacancy can only be filled by the judges because she didn't put that get out of your chair, I'm blocking you from reporting to work part. The Trump administration is like she can still sign pleadings, which is it pissing off the judges. For instance, there's reporting that Judge Nachmanoff, during a hearing about an immigration case having nothing to do with Comey or Letitia James, got into a back and forth with the lawyer Nick Patterson, who's an assistant U.S. Attorney, I think a legitimate one in the Eastern District, about why is Lindsay Halligan's name still on these court filings given Judge Curry's order? Why? He says, those were the instructions we were given. We were supposed to put Robert McBride, who's the number 2 in the office now. He's a semi-retired lawyer brought in from Kentucky to babysit, I guess, the office, and we're supposed to put Todd Blanche's name. Why? Why is Lindsay Halligan's name there as interim U.S. attorney? I don't really have any explanation for that, Your Honor. So Nachmanoff struck it from the pleading and instructed the office, don't file anything in his courtroom that still has Lindsay Halligan's name on it. Other magistrate judges are doing the same thing, and Nachmanoff got into the lawyer like, listen, this is not an order that only relates to Letitia James and Miss James's and Mr. Comey's indictment. This has to do with the entire district. She's out of a job. Are you feeling sluggish, bloated, not like yourself? Life bombards us with silent threats, processed foods, artificial light, and modern stressors that disrupt your gut, drain your energy, and weaken your immune health. Your body isn't broken. It just needs the right inputs, that's where Armor Colostrum comes in. It's nature's original blueprint for health, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health, fuel fitness, recovery, and strengthen immune health, supporting your best performance every day. I love Armra. I've been using it myself. I'm on it right now, and I can tell you it's made a real difference. I feel more energized, less bloated, and just sharper throughout the day. It's not just another supplement. It's a bioactive, whole food, pure, potent, natural, and clean, sustainably sourced with a CAF first commitment. Take back control of your health. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/legalaf or enter legalaf to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's a .com/legalaf. Support your gut, strengthen your immune health, feel the difference with Armra Colostrum. I love when the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Mr. Patterson, looked at the judge and said, "I don't have any reasoning." No reasoning was provided by Department of Justice in Washington. So now you had to have Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche leap into action. And here's what they posted on X. I guess this is supposed to be a love letter to the judges of the Eastern District. A statement from Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. Certain district court and magistrate judges in the Eastern District of Virginia are engaging in an unconscionable campaign of bias and hostility against U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Stop right there. As of the date of this posting, which was like today, yesterday, Lindsay Halligan is not the U.S. Attorney. That would be like me making a posting that says, "From the desk of the President of the United States, Bill Gates." Just because I got some software to print the stationery doesn't mean that I am that. Just like Pete Hegseth isn't the Secretary of War. Lindsay and our attorneys are simply doing their jobs. Well, she's out of a job. There's no job for her to do. Fact that you're admitting you're violating the order of Judge Curry. If I was Letitia James and James Comey, or if I was Judge Curry, having seen this, I would call him in for contempt, plain and simple, and issue a revised, slightly revised order to be a little bit more precise at that moment of blocking Lindsay Halligan from showing up to work. They do not deserve to have their reputations questioned in court for ethically advocating on behalf of their client. It's legitimate for Judge Nachmanoff to say to the Assistant U.S. Attorney, "What's the guidance that you were given?" No guidance was presented, okay? We will continue fighting for public safety in courtrooms across the country. Public safety, that's what Letitia James's mortgage fraud case is about. That's what James Comey's perjury case is about. Public safety. And we will not be deterred by rogue judges, who all the judges are rogue, who failed to live up to their obligations of impartiality because of their own political views. What are you effing talking about? Most of these judges on the Eastern District of Virginia, it's split, it's bipartisan. The American people deserve nothing less. Written by the most corrupt head of the Department of Justice in our history. So what's going to happen next? I think they're going to stop writing Lindsay Halligan's name on things. I don't see them appealing anytime soon to save Lindsay Halligan's job, you know, and I think one of the parties, either James Comey or Letitia James, are going to have to run to court, or Judge Curry's going to have to issue on her own, because she reads issue on her own an amended order barring her from the office, and also somebody should point out this particular posting that I just read out loud as grounds for contempt of court. When you don't follow orders, you don't like writing a social media post to attack the judge and call them rogue is not acceptable as an officer of the court, which both of them are. They have sworn in allegiance to be true and faithful and candid officers of the court. And just because they're doing it in social media doesn't make it okay or all right or not in contempt or contumacious conduct. So here's what I think will happen and should happen. There's going to be an amendment by Judge Curry on her own or on a request to add another line or two to her order to make it clear that she blocks Lindsay Halligan. Lindsay Halligan is not to put her name on pleadings. Lindsay Halligan is precluded from serving in any capacity or impersonating, let's call it for what it is, impersonating the U.S. attorney from now until there is a reversal of her order. They want to appeal, then go appeal. In the meantime, they got a federal order to abide by subject to contempt. I think that happens. I think that the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia, one of them's got to be a fan of thoughtful analysis, hold your meeting and appoint somebody new and have them show up for the keys. That would help. That would go a long way also, and have them start running that office. I think that's got to happen this week as well. From the reports I've seen, the Justice Department has already failed twice to re-indict Letitia James on those mortgage fraud charges. Grand juries rejected it both times, first in early December and again just yesterday, and they're struggling with the Comey case too, where prosecutors alleged he lied about authorizing leaks related to Trump investigations, but a judge froze access to key evidence from Comey's associate. Trump had publicly pushed for these prosecutions back in September on Truth Social, calling out Bondi to go after them for personal reasons. But the courts are pushing back hard, citing the unlawful appointments under the Vacancies Reform Act. This all stems from Trump's nominations starting in November 2024, aiming to install loyalists like Bondi, Blanche, Habba, and Halligan to control the DOJ and target adversaries. But judges like Cameron McGowan Curry in South Carolina, who's no stranger to controversy and was assigned by designation, threw it out without prejudice, meaning they could try again, but with a proper prosecutor. It's a reminder that our system has checks, even in turbulent times. Beyond that, Trump officials, including Bondi and senior DOJ appointees, have attempted to circumvent adverse court orders while also publicly attacking the judiciary, which is raising alarms about the separation of powers. Trump lawyers Alina Habba and Lindsay Halligan were disqualified from their U.S. attorney positions, a blow to the mega takeover of the DOJ, and it's leaving egg on their face as these revenge prosecution failures embarrass the administration. Ms. Habba resigned on Monday after a federal appeals court last week found she had been serving as U.S. attorney unlawfully. And Bondi said the department will continue to fight to reverse the court's ruling on Habba, and she will return as U.S. attorney if those appeals succeed. But that's looking unlikely given the bipartisan nature of the bench. Alina Habba, a fiery Trump loyalist, is stepping down from her role as top prosecutor in New Jersey after an appellate court found last week that her appointment violated the law, and now she's becoming Bondi advisor, leaving the role as top New Jersey prosecutor amid this chaos. DOJ leaders are attacking the Eastern District of judges over Halligan's disqualification as U.S. AT, with Bondi and Blanche alleging the Eastern District of Virginia has several rogue judges who failed to live up to their obligations of impartiality. Pam Bondi is low-key defying federal judges over DQ'd USAs, as the Trump administration is lost in court for invalidly installing interim U.S. attorneys, but it hasn't relinquished the appointment power, which is just prolonging the fight. Egg on their face, Trump's revenge prosecution failures embarrass the DOJ, and Trump then posted on social media that he fired the U.S. Attorney and recommended Attorney General Pam Bondi install Lindsay Halligan instead, which kicked off this whole saga. President Trump's U.S. attorney in Delaware abruptly resigned, and judges in each instance found Bondi's appointment process was out of legal bounds, adding to a pattern of challenges across multiple districts. Let me step back for a moment and give you some more context on how we got here. It all started back in November 2024, right after the election, when Trump began announcing his picks for the Department of Justice. He nominated Pam Bondi, who had been a staunch supporter during his first impeachment and had experience as Florida's AG, but critics pointed out her close ties to Trump might compromise the independence of the DOJ. Then came Todd Blanche as deputy, a guy who defended Trump in criminal trials, raising eyebrows about conflicts of interest. But the real controversy erupted with the interim appointments of people like Lindsay Halligan and Nalina Habba to U.S. attorney positions. Halligan, as I mentioned, was fresh in the legal world, only 8 years out of law school, and her main claim to fame was working on Trump's document cases. Trump praised her publicly, saying she's a really good lawyer who likes him a lot, and just like that, she was thrust into this high-profile role in Virginia, tasked with pursuing cases against figures like Letitia James and James Comey, who Trump has long viewed as enemies. Letitia James, the New York AG, had sued Trump for fraud in his business dealings. And Comey, the former FBI director, was involved in the Russia investigation that dogged Trump's first term. So these indictments, mortgage fraud for James and perjury for Comey, smelled like political payback from the start. Halligan's office moved quickly to indict them, but defense lawyers challenged her appointment under the Vacancies Reform Act, which limits how long acting officials can serve without Senate confirmation, and the Appointments Clause of the Constitution, which requires certain positions to be filled with advice and consent. Judge Cameron McGowan Curry, a Clinton appointee sitting by designation, didn't hold back in her ruling. She declared the appointment invalid, vacated the indictments, and said the district judges should fill the vacancy temporarily. But the DOJ under Bondi and Blanche didn't back down. They tried to ratify Halligan's actions retroactively, which the judge shot down as ineffective. Meanwhile, similar issues played out with Habba in New Jersey. The Third Circuit ruled her appointment unlawful too, leading to her resignation and reassignment as an advisor to Bondi. Talk about failing upward. Bondi publicly vowed to appeal and reinstate her, but legal experts I've read about say the odds are slim because the rulings are grounded in clear statutory language. Now, this defiance from the DOJ is what's escalating things. Bondi and Blanche's statement on X calling judges biased and rogue isn't just rhetoric. It's a direct challenge to judicial authority. Legal scholars are warning that this could lead to contempt proceedings, as officers of the court aren't supposed to undermine rulings they disagree with. In fact, there's talk that Comey and James's lawyers might file for sanctions against the DOJ for continuing to use Halligan's name on filings. Judges like Nachmanoff aren't taking it lightly. They're striking her name from documents in unrelated cases, from immigration to civil matters, emphasizing that the order applies district-wide. Other districts are watching closely. For instance, in Delaware, the U.S. attorney abruptly resigned amid similar appointment scrutiny, suggesting this could be a broader pattern. Public reaction has been intense. Media outlets are calling it a stress test for democracy, with editorials decrying the weaponization of the DOJ for personal vendettas. Trump's base sees it as draining the swamp, but moderates and legal professionals are alarmed at the erosion of norms. From my perspective, as someone who's spent decades building companies and now focusing on global challenges through the Gates Foundation, this kind of instability in the justice system is troubling. It distracts from real issues like climate change, health equity, and innovation. When the DOJ is bogged down in these fights, it can't effectively address cyber threats or antitrust in tech areas I've long advocated for strong oversight in. Think about it. Microsoft went through its own antitrust battles in the 90 seconds, and while tough, they were handled by independent prosecutors, not political appointees, settling scores. This situation risks undermining public trust in institutions, which is essential for a functioning society. And let's not forget the human element. People like Halligan and Habba are caught in the crossfire, their loyalists elevated beyond their experience, and now facing professional humiliation. Halligan's rise and fall happened in just 63 days as U.S. Attorney from White House advisor to Trump's hand-picked prosecutor, only to be disqualified. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing personal loyalty with public service. As for what's next, I suspect we'll see more motions for clarification or contempt. The Eastern District judges might convene soon to appoint an interim, perhaps a career prosecutor, to stabilize the office. Appeals could drag on, but with grand juries already rejecting reindictments twice for James, that momentum is fading. Trump himself has been vocal, posting about firing attorneys and installing his picks, but courts are holding the line. In the end, this episode highlights the resilience of our checks and balances, but it's a close call. We need to stay vigilant to ensure the justice system remains impartial. Thank you for watching. Now go stay informed and vote wisely. Your voice matters.